VR melee combat is a difficult thing to get right. So far for me, the graph of how good it is looks like this. That's not to say tons of games aren't amazing in other areas, just melee combat specifically is severely lacking. But after slaving away for months on my own system, then giving up and starting over again just a short while ago, I'm aiming to put myself on the map. And I think I've done a dang good job. I'm going to go over some of the things I did to actually make it feel fun. Also, I should say right off the bat here that this video is not a tutorial, although I will be sharing a lot of tips and tricks that you could certainly implement in your own game. That being said, I noticed that there is a stunning lack of tutorials really anywhere when it comes to this topic. Let me know in the comments if there's any interest in that, and if this video ever hits 5,000 likes, I'll go ahead and make one. Now, let's get into it. So I had the AI set up pretty well. It wanders around until it sees the player, then gets close enough and then attacks. Trouble is, by the time an attack animation is over, if the player has moved, the attack doesn't even hit you. I needed a way to make the AI actually aim at the player. In comes inverse kinematics. Think of it like this. If I want to punch you in the face, it's not going to work if I just throw a punch and hope it lands. I have to actually connect my fist to your face. Well, inverse kinematics does just that. It takes the punch animation and makes sure the right body part ends up at the right target. This is pretty good, but now let's say what happens if you dodge. This is where I used something called tweening, which is apparently a real word in animation. I set up some events on the animations to gradually aim over time, hit the player, then stop aiming. So in a regular video game, you usually have a set number of animations that enemies and players can use. This makes things like aiming pretty easy. For example, if the player swings a sword to the left, the enemy just swings his shield to the right, and boom, blocked. But in VR, there are literally infinite possibilities for where the player can be holding their sword or shield. And if the goblin's animation always just attacks the top left of your body, guess where me, as the player, is going to always hold my shield? Yup, the top left of my body.
That's right, it goes in the square hole.
This is actually the problem that got me so discouraged last time I tried making this game. How do you make the enemy aim like they're actually smart? This time around though, well, let's just say there's a reason my math teacher said I'm the smartest D student he's ever had. I won't bore you with the details because every time I tried while writing the script, I even got bored of my own sentences, but I'll show the results. Now, if the enemy is attacking my top left and I put my shield there, he'll try to adjust and aim for my bottom left. This adds an element of having to not only aim, but also time your blocks well, which totally fits the sort of Souls-like feel to the combat that I was going for. Seriously, this is so much fun. I tried to get 30 seconds of footage for this video and ended up playing for like 10 minutes just because it's so satisfying. The most important part of this combat system is the collisions. Using my smartest D student math skills, 3 times 3 makes for a total of 9 possible collisions between the enemy and the player, and something special happens for most of them. So, for example, if the player body collides with the enemy body, we don't really need to do anything. Maybe the enemy can get all pissed off and say, "I'm walking here! I'm walking here!" But that can be a future update. If the player weapon collides with the enemy body though, then we need to do some damage to the enemy. Easy enough. If it's a weapon-to-weapon collision, we have another layer of complication. We need to know if the enemy is currently attacking or not. If it is, then we just successfully blocked, and they can cancel their attack animation. So we got collisions registering well, but I decided to make it even better by adding another variable, force. The result is 2 different things. The harder you hit the enemy, the more damage is done. Easy enough. 2. To block an attack, you can't just hold your sword still in front of you. You actually have to hit the enemy's sword out of the way, even if you're using a shield. At this point, my game is really starting to feel like a good physics-based combat system. Blade and sorcery, I'm coming for you. So I've been learning lately just how much of game feel is really an illusion. Small visual and audio effects were a big part of making this combat feel good, and I quite like the result. First off, if you get hit, there's this red flash that plays. Classic, but surprisingly difficult in VR. Second, adding sound effects to the individual collisions. I got a bunch of sound effects for metal, wood, and flesh and wrote a script to decide which effect needs to be played based on the physics material of each object. Also, the sound effects play louder the harder you hit, which makes it feel like your hits mean something. Haptic feedback is also super important, making your controller vibrate when you punch or land a sword hit. In my mind, these were all small details that I thought couldn't possibly be that important, which is why I saved them for last. But I was blown away by how much they really affected the feel of the combat. Obviously, there's been something missing from my game this whole time, which is health bars. I placed the enemy's health bar above their head. It might break immersion a little bit, but I think the pros outweigh the cons. Let me know what you guys think. For the player, I put the health bar on your left wrist. It only appears if you rotate your wrist towards you, so I don't feel like it's too immersion breaking. Again, I'm open to advice. I also added some dying effects. When the enemy dies, he just goes full ragdoll, which is quite fun. When the player dies, you lose control and fall sideways, slowly, while the screen fades to black and your ears ring. This is very trippy in VR, and will probably cause a lot of motion sickness and need to be removed, or at least made optional. But that's the kind of feedback I'll want from beta testing, which we're very close to, so sign up with the link in my description if you want to be a beta tester soon. That's everything I've done for now. Next I'll be adding things like stabbing, cutting off limbs, and the like, so hit that subscribe button to stay up to date. And join the Discord if you want to be part of making this awesome game. Thanks for sticking around to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.